What devastating tragedy at your child's school was easily preventable? My daughter Sophie came home from school 3 Tuesdays in a row complaining about headaches. She was in 4th grade and never complained about anything. So when she asked me for Tylenol after school on that 3rd Tuesday, I paid attention. The headaches only happened on gym days. She said her head started hurting during PE class, which was held in the school's old gymnasium on the east side of the building. I figured maybe she was dehydrated or pushing herself too hard during activities, so I sent her with extra water and told her to take breaks if she needed to. But then other parents started posting in the school Facebook group. Kids were coming home dizzy after gym class. Some were nauseous. One mom said her son had thrown up in the locker room. Every single complaint mentioned the gym. I called the school office on a Thursday morning and spoke to the receptionist, explaining that multiple children were getting sick during gym class. She said she'd pass the message along to the principal. 2 days later, I got an email from Principal Stevens saying they'd looked into it and found no issues. The gym had been deep cleaned and they were monitoring the situation. The headaches continued. Sophie started asking if she could skip gym, which wasn't like her at all. She loved gym class, but now she said the smell in the gymnasium made her feel sick. She described it as a weird chemical smell mixed with something rotten. I emailed Principal Stevens again, mentioning the smell. His response came back within an hour, saying the maintenance staff had checked the ventilation system and everything was functioning properly. He suggested some children might be more sensitive to cleaning products. That's when I started noticing the patterns. Sophie's headaches happened every Tuesday and Thursday, which were gym days, but they were worse on Thursdays. She'd come home pale and exhausted, saying her head was pounding. Other parents were reporting the same thing. One mother pulled her son out of gym entirely after he started having breathing problems. I drove to the school one Thursday afternoon to pick up Sophie early. I walked through the main hallway toward the gym and caught that smell she'd been describing. It was faint, but definitely there, sharp and chemical with an undertone of something decay. I found Principal Stevens in his office and asked him to come with me to the gym. He seemed annoyed, but followed me anyway. The smell was stronger near the gym entrance. I pointed it out and he said he didn't smell anything unusual. But when we walked into the actual gymnasium, even he paused. The air felt heavy and wrong. 3 kids were sitting on the bleachers looking sick while the gym teacher tried to continue class. Principal Stevens told the teacher to end class early and open all the doors and windows to air the place out. That night, I filed a formal complaint with the school district. I included the Facebook posts from other parents, dates of when children got sick, and my own observations. I requested an independent inspection of the gymnasium's air quality. The district sent someone out the following Monday. I got a call on Tuesday saying they'd found elevated carbon monoxide levels in the gymnasium. The heating system had been leaking exhaust into the gym for months. The detector that should have caught it had dead batteries. They closed the gym immediately for repairs. But that Thursday morning, before the repairs could start, Sophie texted me from school saying something was happening. Kids were collapsing in the gym during the first period class. I drove there going 50 inches, a 30 zone. Fire trucks and ambulances were already in the parking lot. Parents were running toward the building. I found Sophie sitting outside with her class, crying. 17 kids had been taken to the hospital. 3 were unconscious. And that's when I learned what they'd really found during that inspection. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. The carbon monoxide leak and black mold. The combination had been slowly poisoning our children for months, while the school administration ignored every warning sign. I stand frozen in the chaos of the parking lot, watching paramedics rush oxygen tanks toward the gymnasium. Sophie clings to my side, her small hand gripping mine with surprising strength. Her face is pale, but she's conscious, unlike 3 of her classmates who are being carried out on stretchers, oxygen masks strapped to their faces. "Mom, is Zach going to die?" Sophie whispers, her voice trembling as she watches her friend being loaded into an ambulance. His skin has a sickly bluish tint. "No, honey, the doctors will help him," I say, hoping it's true. A firefighter in full gear approaches parents gathered near the school entrance. "We need everyone to move back. The entire east wing is being evacuated and ventilated." Another parent grabs his arm. "What happened in there?" "Carbon monoxide leak from the heating system. Levels in the gym were dangerously high." He hesitates before adding, "We've also found significant black mold behind the wall padding. The combination likely intensified symptoms." My blood runs cold. Not just carbon monoxide, but toxic mold too? No wonder the smell was so complex, chemical, and rotting at once. No wonder the headaches were getting progressively worse. Principal Stevens emerges from the building, his face ashen as he's cornered by frantic parents. I move closer, pulling Sophie with me. "Did you know about this?" a father demands, getting in Stevens' face. "Did you ignore the inspection reports?" There was no indication of Stevens begins. "Bullshit!" the father's voice cracks with emotion. "My son is unconscious right now. The district said they found problems on Monday." Stevens raises his hands defensively. "I assure you, if I had known about any dangerous conditions..." "We told you," I interject, unable to contain myself. "Dozens of parents reported symptoms. I personally walked you into that gym and pointed out the smell." Other parents join in, voices rising with anger and fear. Stevens backs away, mumbling something about needing to coordinate with emergency services before retreating into the administrative offices. "Mom," Sophie tugs at my sleeve. "I don't feel good." I look down and notice her swaying slightly, her eyes unfocused. Without hesitation, I scoop her up and rush toward the nearest paramedic. "My daughter was in the gym earlier this week. She's been having headaches for weeks," I explain frantically. The paramedic immediately places an oxygen mask over Sophie's face and guides us toward an ambulance. "We'll take her in for evaluation. Carbon monoxide poisoning can have delayed effects." The pediatric wing of Mercy General is overwhelmed. 17 children from Sophie's school occupy beds and examination rooms, their worried parents hovering nearby. The hallways buzz with medical staff rushing between rooms, the beeping of monitors creating a chaotic symphony of concern. Sophie's blood test confirmed elevated carboxyhemoglobin levels, evidence of carbon monoxide poisoning. The doctor explained that while her levels weren't critical, the repeated exposure over weeks weeks was concerning. She'll need to stay overnight for observation and oxygen therapy. Mom, look. Sophie points weakly at the television in her room. The local news is showing footage of our school. Emergency vehicles still crowding the parking lot. The caption reads, "Breaking. Mass carbon monoxide poisoning at Westbrook Elementary." A reporter stands outside the hospital entrance. 17 children have been hospitalized following what appears to be chronic carbon monoxide exposure at Westbrook Elementary School. 3 students remain unconscious and have been placed in hyperbaric chambers to receive intensive oxygen therapy. Sources tell us the school's gymnasium heating system was leaking exhaust for an undetermined period of time, and inspectors also discovered extensive black mold behind wall padding. I mute the television as Sophie's eyes grow wide with fear. "Is that where Zach and Emma and Tyler are? In those chamber things?" she asks. I nod, stroking her hair. "It's a special treatment that helps get the carbon monoxide out of their bodies faster. Will they be okay?" "The doctors are doing everything they can," I say, unable to promise more. A nurse enters with another dose of medication for Sophie's persistent headache. As she checks vital signs, I step into the hallway where parents have gathered in small, worried clusters. The atmosphere is a mix of relief, fear, and growing anger. "They're saying the carbon monoxide detector batteries were dead," one mother says, her voice shaking. "For months, and nobody bothered to check them. My son told his gym teacher 3 weeks ago that the room smelled like car exhaust," another parent adds. "She told him to stop complaining." A father paces the hallway, his phone pressed to his ear. "No comment? Are you serious? My daughter is on oxygen right now because your school ignored basic safety protocols." Through the large windows of the pediatric ward, I can see news vans gathering in the parking lot below. Reporters with microphones stand ready, cameras pointed at the hospital entrance where a spokesperson for the school district has just arrived, looking nervous. I return to Sophie's room, where she's watching the muted television with tired eyes. "Mom," she says quietly, "I tried to tell them about the smell. Lots of kids did." "I know, sweetie. Every Thursday was worse than Tuesday," she continues, her voice small but determined. "Because Thursday is when they turn the heat up higher for morning yoga. We all sit on the floor and breathe deep like Miss Patterson shows us." Her face crumples. "We were breathing in the bad air extra deep." I hold her hand, fighting back tears of rage and guilt. How many adults failed these children? How many warning signs were ignored? The chemical smell was there for weeks, Sophie whispers, her eyelids growing heavy from medication. "Sometimes I would pretend to tie my shoe just so I could put my head down for a minute when it got too bad." As Sophie drifts to sleep, my phone buzzes with a text from another parent. "Emergency meeting tomorrow. Lawyer coming. We're not letting them get away with this." I look at my daughter's pale face, the oxygen tube in her nose, and silently promise her that someone will be held accountable. This was no accident. This was negligence, criminal negligence, and Principal Stevens' denials won't save him from what's coming. Outside Sophie's room, I hear a commotion as more parents arrive, demanding answers from hospital staff and school officials. The media presence grows by the minute. This story is just beginning, and I won't rest until the truth is fully exposed. For Sophie and for every child who was poisoned while adults looked the other way. The hospital room feels too bright, too sterile as I watch Sophie sleeping. Her oxygen levels have improved overnight, but the tremor in her right hand started this morning. The doctor noticed it during rounds and ordered another set of tests. "Carbon monoxide can cause neurological symptoms that may persist for weeks or months after exposure," Dr. Patel explained, her voice gentle but clinical. "The blood tests show levels consistent with chronic exposure, not immediately life-threatening, but concerning given how long this has likely been happening." I stare at the printout she left me. Sophie's carboxyhemoglobin level is 18%, well above normal. The hospital has confirmed similar levels in all 17 children, with the 3 unconscious students showing even higher concentrations. My phone buzzes with a notification. The school district has finally released a statement. Westbrook Elementary administration was unaware of any carbon monoxide or mold issues prior to yesterday's incident. "We are cooperating fully with authorities to determine how this unfortunate situation occurred and to ensure all district facilities are safe for students and staff." "Bullshit," I mutter, drawing a curious glance from the nurse, checking Sophie's IV. My phone rings Melissa, another 4th grade parent. "Did you see their statement?" she demands without preamble. "They're lying through their teeth. We've organized an emergency meeting tonight at the community center. 7 o'clock. Can you make it?" I look at Sophie, who stirs slightly in her sleep. "I don't want to leave her." "Bring her. Several kids are being discharged today. We need everyone there, especially those with documentation of previous complaints." I think of the unanswered emails I sent about Sophie's headaches, the Facebook posts in the school's parent group. I'll be there. The community center buzzes with barely contained fury. Nearly 100 parents crowd the main meeting room, many with their children beside them. Sophie sits next to me, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders despite the warm room. Her hands tremble slightly as she sips water through a straw. Melissa stands at the front, a stack of papers in her hands. Her son Tyler remains in the hospital, still unconscious. "Thank you all for coming," she begins, her voice tight with emotion. "While our children were being poisoned, the school was covering up evidence that could have prevented this tragedy." She holds up a thick folder. "These are maintenance records for Westbrook Elementary, obtained through an emergency records request filed this morning. They show 7 work orders for the gymnasium heating system over the past 8 months, all marked deferred due to budget constraints." Gasps and angry murmurs ripple through the crowd. The most recent request, dated just 3 weeks ago, specifically mentions a gas-like odor during system operation. A father stands, his face flushed with anger. "My daughter told her gym teacher about feeling dizzy during class. They sent her back with a cup of water and told her to try harder." Others join in, each story more damning than the last. Children complaining of headaches, nausea, dizziness, all dismissed or minimized by school staff. Then the door opens, and a woman I don't recognize enters. She clutches a laptop to her chest, looking nervous but determined. "My name is Janet Winters. I was Principal Stevens' administrative assistant." Her voice shakes. "I have something you all need to see." The room falls silent as she connects her laptop to the projector. An email appears on screen, dated 2 months ago. From District Facilities Manager to Principal Stevens, subject, urgent gymnasium heating system inspection results. The inspection conducted Monday shows the gymnasium heating system is operating outside of safety parameters. Carbon monoxide readings near air returns registered at concerning levels. Recommend immediate shutdown of system and repair. Please confirm receipt and action plan. Janet scrolls to show Stevens' response. We cannot shut down the gymnasium during winter months. Find a temporary solution that keeps the system operational. Budget for major repairs is unavailable until next fiscal year. The room erupts in shouts and curses. A mother near the front stands, tears streaming down her face. My son is in a hyperbaric chamber fighting for his life because of this. Janet continues scrolling through email after email, warnings ignored, concerns dismissed, safety protocols bypassed. The evidence is overwhelming and damning. I couldn't stay silent anymore, Janet says, her voice breaking. Not after seeing those children carried out on stretchers. Sophie tugs at my sleeve. Mom, I don't feel good. Her face is pale, and the tremor in her hands has worsened. I wrap my arm around her shoulders, feeling helpless as she struggles to control the shaking. It's okay, sweetie. We'll go back to the hospital if you need to. No, she whispers. I want to stay. I want them to know what happened to us. The meeting continues for another hour. Parents organize into committees, legal action, media relations, hospital support. State officials have already launched a formal investigation, and 2 representatives from the Department of Education sit in the back, taking notes on everything being said. As we prepare to leave, Melissa approaches with a middle-aged man in a suit. This is Richard Keller, an investigative reporter with Channel 9, she explains. He's been looking into school safety violations across the district. Richard kneels to Sophie's level. Would you be willing to tell me about what happened in the gym? Only if you feel up to it. Sophie looks at me questioningly. I nod, letting her decide. The smell was really bad on Thursdays, she begins, her voice small but steady despite her trembling hands. That's when Miss Patterson does yoga with us. We have to breathe really deep, in through the nose and out through the mouth. She demonstrates, then winces at the memory. Sometimes kids would throw up, but they'd say it was just from exercising. Richard takes careful notes, his expression growing grimmer with each detail. Did you ever tell anyone about the smell or feeling sick? He asks. Sophie nods. I told Principal Stevens when he visited our class. He said the smell was just the new floor cleaner and that I should stop complaining. Her voice cracks. He said I was being dramatic. Richard looks up at me. We're running a special investigation tomorrow night. The school board is holding an emergency session at 7 p.m. You might want to be there. The school board meeting descends into chaos within minutes. Hundreds of parents pack the district auditorium, many holding signs with photos of their hospitalized children. News cameras line the back wall. The board chairwoman tries to maintain order, but parents shout over her prepared statement about investigating the situation. Your investigation is too late, a father yells. The evidence was there for months. Sophie sits beside me, her memory issues becoming more apparent today. Twice on the way here, she forgot what we were doing. The doctor called it post-CO exposure cognitive effects, a clinical term that doesn't capture the terror of watching your child struggle to remember things she knew yesterday. The maintenance records are projected on screen, followed by the emails Janet provided. When the gymnasium heating system inspection reports appear showing 3 failed inspections in the past year, the room erupts again. Those children could have died, someone shouts from the back. Some of them still might, responds the mother of one of the unconscious students. The superintendent finally steps to the microphone, looking haggard. In light of these revelations, Principal Stevens has been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. It's not enough, not nearly enough, but it's a start. As we leave the meeting, Sophie stumbles, momentarily disoriented. I catch her before she falls, and our eyes meet. The confusion there breaks my heart. Mom, she whispers, why can't I remember what day it is? I hold her close, fighting back tears. It's okay, sweetie. The doctor said this might happen, but it's going to get better. I don't know if that's true, but I have to believe it. What I do know is that Principal Stevens and everyone else responsible will be held accountable not just for what happened, but for every warning they ignored and every child they failed to protect. This isn't over. It's only just beginning. The press conference is a circus. Superintendent Vaughn looks like he's aged 10 years overnight, his collar damp with sweat under the harsh fluorescent lights of the district auditorium. Camera flashes punctuate his every word as he grips the podium with white knuckles. After a thorough preliminary investigation, he reads from a prepared statement. We acknowledge that systemic failures within our district contributed to the carbon monoxide and mold exposure at Westbrook Elementary. The room erupts in shouts and questions. I sit in the back row with Sophie beside me, her trembling hands clutched in mine. The tremors have worsened since yesterday. The district takes full responsibility, Vaughn continues, his voice cracking. We failed our most vulnerable community members, our children. Will you resign? A reporter shouts. Vaughn's face tightens. I am focused on addressing this crisis and ensuring accountability at all levels. Is it true the carbon monoxide detector batteries were deliberately removed? Another voice cuts through the chaos. The superintendent hesitates, glancing at the district's lawyer, who gives a slight nod. Our investigation confirms that the gymnasium's carbon monoxide detectors had their batteries removed approximately 6 months ago. We are still determining who was responsible for this action. Sophie leans against me, her eyes unfocused. Mom, I can't remember if I finished my math homework, she whispers. The doctor called this morning with her latest test results. Her neurological symptoms may persist for months. You don't have homework right now, sweetie, I remind her gently. School's closed, remember? Confusion flickers across her face before recognition returns. Right, because of the poison air. On the stage, Vaughn is drowning in questions he can't answer. I feel my phone vibrate, a text from Melissa. Class action filed this morning. 32 families so far. Meeting at Richards and Bloom Law Office tomorrow at 10 a.m. The law office conference room is packed beyond capacity. Parents line the walls, some holding children who look as pale and shaky as Sophie. Richard Keller, the investigative reporter, stands in the the corner with a notepad, having been invited by our lawyer to document everything. The lawsuit names the school district, Principal Stevens personally, the maintenance supervisor, and 3 members of the school board, explains Diane Richards, our lead attorney. Her no-nonsense demeanor and reputation for taking on institutional negligence made her our unanimous choice. We've uncovered evidence that goes beyond simple negligence, she continues, clicking through a presentation. Channel 9's investigation revealed a pattern of safety violations across multiple schools in the district. Richard Keller steps forward. My team found similar maintenance issues at 4 other schools: expired fire extinguishers, disabled smoke detectors, mold remediation delayed for years. This wasn't isolated to Westbrook. A mother near the front raises her hand. My son still can't remember his own birthday. The doctors say his short-term memory may be permanently affected. Will the lawsuit address ongoing medical costs? Absolutely. Diane nods. We're seeking compensation for immediate medical expenses, long-term care, educational accommodations, and punitive damages. Sophie shifts uncomfortably beside me. The tremors have spread to her left arm today. 2 rows ahead sits Zach's father. His son remains hospitalized, one of 2 children still fighting for their lives. The other, Emma Pearson, has been diagnosed with permanent neurological damage. Her mother isn't here. She hasn't left Emma's bedside in days. We've received copies of emails between Principal Stevens and the maintenance supervisor, Diane continues, displaying them on screen. In one exchange dated 4 months ago, Stevens wrote, and I quote, "The budget cannot accommodate a full system replacement. Make it work through the school year and we'll address it in summer." Gasps and muttered curses fill the room. The evidence keeps mounting, each revelation more damning than the last. The public hearing at City Hall is standing room only. State officials, education department representatives, and the district attorney's office have all sent investigators. Sophie sits at the witness table, looking small and vulnerable in her favorite blue sweater. Her right hand trembles despite her efforts to hide it under the table. Sophie, can you tell us what happened when students complained about the smell in the gymnasium? Asks Commissioner Ramirez, her voice gentle. Sophie glances at me for reassurance before answering. We told Ms. Patterson first. She said we were being dramatic. Her voice is soft but clear. Then we told Principal Stevens when he came to watch our class. He said it was just the new floor cleaner and to stop complaining. And how often did you experience symptoms while in the gymnasium? Every Tuesday and Thursday, Sophie replies. Those were our gym days. Thursdays were worse because we did yoga and had to breathe really deep. She demonstrates the breathing technique, then winces at the memory. Sometimes kids would throw up. I got headaches that lasted all day. Commissioner Ramirez leans forward. Did any adults ever check the gym after students complained? The janitor came once with Principal Stevens. They walked around for like a minute, and Principal Stevens said everything was fine. Sophie's hand trembles more violently, and she grabs it with her other hand to steady it. He told us we were just trying to get out of gym class. Her testimony is followed by other students, each account more heartbreaking than the last. Then Janet Winters, Stevens' former assistant, presents her evidence emails, maintenance records, inspection reports, all showing a deliberate pattern of neglect. The maintenance supervisor, Robert Gaines, is called next. Under the weight of overwhelming evidence, he crumbles. Yes, I removed the batteries, he admits, his voice barely audible. The detectors kept going off and we couldn't afford to replace the system. Principal Stevens told me to handle it quietly until summer budget approval. A collective gasp ripples through the room. The district attorney scribbles notes furiously. And the inspection records? Commissioner Ramirez presses. Gaines stares at the table. I falsified them. For years, the gymnasium heating system failed inspection 3 times. The most recent was in January. Under whose direction did you falsify these records? Principal Stevens said if we reported another failed inspection, the gym would be shut down. He said it would be my job if that happened. By the time Principal Stevens is called to testify, the room vibrates with barely contained fury. He arrives in a crisp suit, his attorney at his side, looking more annoyed than remorseful. Principal Stevens, did you receive multiple warnings about potential carbon monoxide issues in the gymnasium? Commissioner Ramirez asks. I received maintenance requests that I prioritized based on available resources, he responds, his voice clipped and defensive. Please answer the question directly. Stevens shifts uncomfortably. Yes, I received reports. And did you respond to an urgent email from the district facilities manager by stating, and I quote, we cannot shut down the gymnasium during winter months. Find a temporary solution that keeps the system operational. Budget constraints required difficult decisions, he begins. Yes or no, Principal Stevens? Yes, but context matters. The context, Commissioner Ramirez interrupts, is that 17 children were hospitalized, 3 lost consciousness, and 2 may have permanent neurological damage because of decisions you made. Stevens' attorney whispers something, and he sits back, his face flushed. When the commissioners call a short recess, Sophie leans against me, exhausted. Did I do okay, Mom? She asks, her eyes heavy. You were perfect, sweetie. So brave. Outside the hearing room, parents gather in tight clusters, discussing the revelations. 3 school board members have already submitted their resignations, unable to face the growing scandal. The district attorney has requested all evidence for review by her office's criminal division. Richard Keller approaches us, notebook in hand. Sophie's testimony was powerful, he says. The segment airs tonight at 6. We're calling it Poisoned Education, how budget cuts and cover-ups endangered an entire school. As we prepare to leave, I notice a group of parents gathered near the entrance, their faces grim with determination. They're holding signs, criminal charges now, and justice for our children. Melissa catches my eye across the lobby. Her son Tyler has finally regained consciousness, but the doctors say his recovery will be long and uncertain. She nods toward the group with the signs. We're not stopping until they face criminal charges, she says, her voice steel beneath the exhaustion. Negligence doesn't begin to cover what they did. I look down at Sophie, who's struggling to remember which pocket she put her phone in, something that would have been automatic before the poisoning. The tremors in her hands make even this simple task task difficult. Count us in, I tell Melissa. This isn't over until every person responsible is held accountable. As we walk toward the exit, reporters swarm around us, microphones extended. Sophie shrinks against me, overwhelmed by the attention. I wrap my arm protectively around her shoulders and face the cameras. My daughter and her classmates were poisoned while adults they trusted looked the other way. I say, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. They ignored warnings, falsified records, and removed safety devices that could have prevented this tragedy. This wasn't an accident. It was a crime. Behind us, the hearing resumes. Principal Stevens will face more questions, more evidence of his callous disregard for student safety. But the truth is already out, exposed for all to see how budget concerns and professional convenience were prioritized over children's lives. And no matter what happens next, nothing can undo what they've done to Sophie and her classmates. The tremors in her hands, the gaps in her memory, these are the real costs of their negligence, paid not by those responsible, but by the children they failed to protect. The district attorney's announcement comes on a Tuesday morning, exactly 6 weeks after the day our children collapsed in the gymnasium. I'm sitting at our kitchen table with my laptop open, watching the live stream as Sophie eats breakfast across from me. Her hands still tremble slightly as she lifts her spoon, but the episodes are less frequent now. Following a comprehensive investigation, District Attorney Morales says, her expression grim beneath the harsh lights, my office is filing criminal charges against former Principal Edward Stevens for reckless endangerment and criminal negligence resulting in bodily harm to minors. I reach across the table and squeeze Sophie's hand. She looks up from her cereal, confused by my sudden emotion. They're charging Principal Stevens, I explain. He's going to face criminal consequences for what happened. Sophie nods slowly. Her memory issues have improved, but she still struggles with processing new information. Will he go to jail? Maybe. The DA is saying he could face up to 5 years. On screen, DA Morales continues. The evidence shows Mr. Stevens was repeatedly warned about dangerous conditions in the gymnasium. He not only ignored these warnings, but actively concealed them from district officials and falsified safety records. My phone buzzes with messages from other parents. Melissa sends a string of celebration emojis followed by, finally some justice. Tyler's neurologist says his memory tests are improving. Sophie finishes her breakfast and heads to the living room for her daily cognitive exercises. The neurologist prescribed a series of memory games and puzzles to help rebuild the neural pathways damaged by carbon monoxide. Some days are better than others. Yesterday, she remembered our neighbor's name without prompting for the first time in weeks. The compensation fund announcement comes 3 days after the criminal charges. The school district's lawyers meet with our legal team at Richards and Bloom to hammer out the details of the settlement. The district has agreed to establish a $12 million victim compensation fund, Diane Richards explains to the room full of parents. Each affected child will receive an immediate payment to cover current medical expenses, with the remainder placed in trust for future care needs. A father in the back raises his hand. What about the kids with permanent damage? My daughter still can't concentrate long enough to read a full page. The settlement includes additional provisions for children with documented long-term effects, Diane explains. The trust will cover medical care, educational support, and therapy through age 25. I think about Sophie's tremors, which the doctors say might never fully disappear, about the gaps in her memory that still appear without warning, about the nightmares that wake her 3 nights a week, gasping for air that isn't there. Is it enough? I ask Melissa as we leave the meeting. How do you put a price tag on what they took from our children? She shakes her head, watching her son Tyler struggle to remember which pocket he put his phone in, something that would have been automatic before the poisoning. It's not about the money. It's about making sure this never happens to another child. The district's response is swift and comprehensive, driven as much by legal necessity as moral obligation. Every school undergoes safety inspections by independent contractors. Maintenance records are digitized and made public on the district website. And most importantly, new carbon monoxide detection systems are installed in every building. These are hardwired into the school's electrical system with battery backups, explains the contractor as he installs the final detector in Westbrook Elementary's newly renovated gymnasium. If levels rise even slightly above normal, the alarm triggers automatically and alerts emergency services. Sophie watches the installation from the doorway, refusing to step fully into the gym. She hasn't been back inside since that day, and I don't push her. Some memories are too powerful to confront head-on. Will it beep really loud if the bad air comes back? She asks, her voice small. The contractor kneels to her level, louder than you can imagine, and it can't be turned off or disabled by anyone in the building. That's the most important part. State Senator Martinez introduces the legislation 3 months after the incident, naming it Sophie's Law after consulting with several families. The bill requires functional carbon monoxide detectors in all school buildings, with quarterly inspections and criminal penalties for tampering or disabling safety equipment. No child should ever be poisoned at school, Martinez says during the press conference announcing the bill. This legislation ensures that what happened at Westbrook Elementary will never happen again in our state. Sophie sits beside me during the announcement, fidgeting with a blue awareness ribbon pinned to her shirt. When Martinez asks if she'd like to say something, Sophie approaches the microphone hesitantly. I still get headaches sometimes, she says, her voice stronger than I expected, and my hands shake when I'm tired, but I'm getting better. She pauses, looking back at me for reassurance before continuing. I just want other kids to be safe at school. That's all. Her simple statement brings tears to the eyes of hardened politicians and reporters alike. The bill passes unanimously 2 weeks later. Principal Stevens' guilty plea comes as a surprise to everyone except those who've seen the mountain of evidence against him. Standing in the courtroom in a navy suit that hangs loose on his frame, he looks diminished, a shadow of the confident administrator who once dismissed our children's complaints. The defendant has agreed to plead guilty to all charges, the prosecutor announces, in exchange for his cooperation in the ongoing investigation of district-wide safety violations. The judge sentences sentences him to 18 months in prison, followed by 5 years of probation. As the bailiff leads him away, Stevens makes eye contact with me briefly. I expect to see defiance or resentment, but there's only defeat in his eyes and something that might be genuine remorse. Outside the courthouse, reporters crowd around the families. A microphone is thrust in my face. "Are you satisfied with the sentence?" a reporter asks. I consider the question carefully. Justice isn't about revenge. It's about accountability and change. Principal Stevens will serve his time, but what matters more is that our children's suffering has led to real reforms that will protect others. The memorial service marks 1 year since the day our children collapsed in that gymnasium. We gather on the school lawn around a newly planted oak tree, its young branches reaching skyward. A simple plaque at its base reads, "In honor of the Westbrook students whose courage and resilience led to change. May all children breathe freely in their pursuit of knowledge." 17 children stand in a semicircle around the tree, each holding a blue balloon. Sophie's hands tremble slightly as she grips her string, but she stands tall between Zach and Emma, the three who were most seriously affected, now bound by shared experience and recovery. Emma still uses a wheelchair some days when her neurological symptoms flare up. Zach wears noise-canceling headphones to manage the auditory processing disorder that developed after his exposure. But they're here, they're alive, and they're healing. The superintendent, newly appointed after Vaughn's resignation, reads the names of all 17 affected children. As each name is called, that child releases their balloon into the clear blue sky. When Sophie's turn comes, she hesitates, watching the others float away. "It's okay," I whisper. "Let it go." She releases the string and watches her balloon join the others, a visible symbol of both what was lost and what was gained. Environmental safety advocates, that's what we're calling it, Sophie explains, spreading brochures across our dining table. In the months since the memorial service, she's channeled her experience into activism, starting a student group dedicated to school safety awareness. "We're going to teach other kids what warning signs to look for," she continues, her excitement momentarily overriding the tremor in her right hand, "and how to report problems if adults won't listen." I flip through the brochure she's designed. It includes simple explanations of carbon monoxide dangers, mold symptoms, and a checklist of environmental red flags that children can understand. The back page lists reporting resources, including the new state hotline established under Sophie's law. "This is amazing, sweetie," I tell her, pride swelling in my chest. "You're turning something terrible into something that will help others." She beams at me, and for a moment, I see the carefree child she was before that day in the gymnasium. The tremors and memory issues haven't disappeared. They may never fully go away, but they've become part of her story rather than defining it. Robert Gaines, the maintenance supervisor who removed the detector batteries and falsified inspection records, receives his sentence 2 weeks after Sophie launches her advocacy group. Unlike Stevens, he avoids jail time, instead receiving 5 years of probation and 2,000 hours of community service. The defendant's cooperation was instrumental in bringing the full scope of negligence to light, the judge explains. His testimony against Principal Stevens and his immediate admission of guilt have been taken into consideration. Part of Gaines' community service includes speaking at schools across the state about the importance of safety protocols and the devastating consequences of cutting corners. It's a fitting punishment facing students just like those he endangered, and explaining how his actions changed their lives forever. The settlement check arrives on a Thursday morning, exactly 1 year and 3 months after the incident. I stare at the number, trying to reconcile the amount with what it represents. No sum could ever truly compensate for what Sophie endured, but it will ensure her future is secure. After consulting with financial advisors, we establish a college fund that will cover Sophie's education wherever she chooses to go. The remaining money is placed in a trust for her ongoing medical care and future needs. "Can I use some of it for the advocacy group?" Sophie asks when I explain the arrangements. "We need better materials, and I want to help schools that can't afford carbon monoxide detectors." I hug her tightly, overwhelmed by her generosity and vision. "Absolutely, that's the perfect use for it." That evening, as Sophie works on her homework slower than before but with determined focus, I watch her from the doorway. The tremor in her hand is barely noticeable today. She pauses occasionally, searching for a word or memory that once would have come effortlessly, but she never gives up. Principal Stevens made choices that changed our children forever. He prioritized budgets over bodies, convenience over care. But in doing so, he inadvertently created something powerful, a generation of students who understand that safety isn't automatic, that systems fail, and that sometimes the youngest voices must speak the loudest truths. Sophie looks up and catches me watching. "Mom, is everything okay?" I smile and nod. "Everything's getting better, one breath at a time."